Welcome to episode 55 of the Twig Snapper Podcast. Today I'm joined by Meg Stacy. She's on the Manhattanville women's golf and hockey teams. How are you today, Meg?
I'm wonderful. It's a pleasure to be here, and I can't wait to get started.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. I figured we'd start off by I was reading your bio on the roster, and it said that you won a state championship in high school. So I figured we could just kind of start there talking about that and, winning it and everything.
Yeah, of course. So it was before I went to boarding school, and it was on our travel team that most of my high school team played on. And so kind of at that young age, when you're like 16 years old, it's almost like winning the Stanley Cup, I'd say, a little bit for
Yeah.
that age. And it was with all of my best friends. So it was just a travel team that we'd play on the weekends when we weren't in school and after games on Sundays. And honestly, we didn't think we were going to win. And then somehow we pulled through and, getting the little trophies and taking pictures with our families on the ice. It was honestly such a cool experience. And I still remember it at 22 and hoping for a big championship in college hockey so I can follow up with that.
Right, add another trophy to the collection.
Yeah, I love the hardware and any aspect of like golf, hockey, whatever it is. Love to win and get a trophy.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you have an office someday, you can have all your trophies in an office or whatever. People walk in, they'll see it all and kind of,
Exactly. Nice
a little bit
display
of a,
case.
yeah, exactly. Get a nice little glass display case and load it up with some hardware. So one thing I want to talk about with college hockey is the COVID season. Obviously, it was nothing like anyone was, used to. Everyone was used to fans and playing a long season, lots of games. And then the COVID season hit, and you guys only played a handful of games. You didn't have fans. You had to wear masks. People were getting quarantined. It was just an absolute mess. So talk about that from a student athlete perspective, having to deal with all of that. I mean, college is hard enough. College athletics are hard enough as it is. And then you throw this other wrench in there, and it's just a mess. So talk about that from your perspective.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think going to college, the whole point of it is to socialize and be with your friends, and especially hockey too. Like we start skating in September. Our COVID season didn't start until about the end of December, January, and it was only about 2 months long. We played probably 12 games. Our roster was really sparse during that time. So, ice time was a lot, and it wasn't really fun because we'd have to break up into groups during skates. So the people who you lived with, so like the freshmen would be together, the juniors would be together, and you didn't really get to socialize with the team. And I feel like the whole part of like team
Yeah.
bonding is being together, and that helps on and off the ice. So being split really probably didn't translate too well onto the ice, but I think for what we were given, we did really well. And if anything, it just showed how appreciative I am to have 2 seasons under my belt now of regular college hockey. But being quarantined like every other week was insane. And that was at the point where it was 2 weeks that you would have to quarantine.
Yeah.
So we'd get a nice phone call from the CDC being like, hey, so heard that you were exposed to COVID from someone on your team. And this was like an every other week thing. So we didn't get a lot of games. Sometimes we'd have to cancel. Worst part was if we were on a road trip, like let's say we were playing King's College, we would have to drive up there on Friday, come back home, and then drive up there again for Saturday because we weren't allowed to stay in hotels. So it was just mentally draining. But to be honest, I think we made the best out of it and just had fun. But there was only so much fun we could have within that.
Right. I mean, like you said, the whole point of college is social. So, I mean, you miss that on the athletic side, and then on a classes side too. Classes were different. Everything's online. The whole education aspect, just everything. Like people missed out on that true college experience, especially if someone was a freshman. And then you said, being divided. That's hard for freshmen. They can't learn anything. It's hard for your team to build. Like you could definitely see an effect the year after COVID year with different teams because everyone was so divided. You only played a handful of games. It didn't help like prepare your program for the future.
Yeah, most definitely. It was also crazy going to hockey practice and then sitting in my room all day doing online classes while I'm at school. And, I feel like I was grateful to have boarding school under my belt before all this. So, like, I understood and, like, knew what it was like to live away from home. But for some of the kids who have never lived away from home, it was definitely a really tough experience for them.
Right, and then and then you get quarantined and you have that isolation. Like you said, it's just hard mentally to deal with all of that. College is hard enough mentally. There's the stressors and everything that this just added another element to it that was unlike anything anyone had seen. But luckily, everyone we got through it, and things are back to normal with seasons and playing and fans, and that's another thing. No fans playing those games. It just feels like almost like a scrimmage. There's
Yeah,
no one. There's no energy. There's no electricity in the building.
that was tough, especially my parents being huge supporters of everything I do. Like, they don't miss a game, and for them to not be there for like my like first college puck drop, and like the only people that you want to look up to in the stands is your parents, and they can't be there. So that was really tough, all within that whole thing.
Yeah, no matter how much fake crowd noise they put in there, it's not the same as the real thing.
Uh,
When you look up there and you just see empty seats, you don't see people going nuts over a goal or whatever. It's not the same.
yeah, it was very sad, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm sure some teams were a little bit used to it though. If
Yeah.
you didn't have a lot of fans, maybe it wasn't too hard, but for most people it was a shock. So you got a career, something that everyone, it's like a milestone in your hockey career. You finally got it, your first college goal. Everyone, they can't wait for that moment. Some people get it right away. Other people have to work a little bit longer to get it. And you finally got yours at Stevenson this year. So talk about that. Talk about the moment. Take us through how it happened and just the emotion and everything with it.
Well, worst part was my parents weren't there. One game they weren't at, of course I scored. But long story short, my coach was like, "All right, Stacy, get out there with one of like my line mates. Her name's Carrie Carr. She's awesome. She's a fifth year." And I said to her, I go, "We drove by a Krispy Kreme when we were on the way to the rink." And so I said, before I went out for my shift, I go, "If I score, we're going to Krispy Kreme after this." She was like, "Deal." So I go out there, Carrie shoots on net, and then I saw it. I fell down and I was like, this has to go in the net. Like, it can't not. So I just hit it in right when I was like laying on my stomach on the ice, and it went in, and everyone was going crazy. I mean, it's been a long time coming, I feel like, but finally it happened, and wish my parents were there to celebrate, but we celebrated when I got home. But I actually have
Yeah.
right here. 5,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
That's another thing to add to the trophy case.
Exactly. I wish it had Manhattanville's logo on it, but Stevenson will do.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. So did you get Krispy Kreme donuts then?
We did, yes. Actually, Carrie's parents picked them up for us, brought them in the locker room, 3 dozen of them. That was probably better than scoring the goal, to be honest with you.
The reward afterwards. It's got to be a new tradition for you then. Every time you score, you got to get Krispy Kreme
It
donuts.
was, but my parents were watching from home, and like my lucky like numbers are 5:55, like the time and everything. And so they said I got on the ice exactly at 5:55, and then I scored then. So it's kind of nice to hear.
Yeah. Well, at least they could watch it from home. They could see it. Obviously it's not the same as being there, but it's better than nothing. They could still watch you score.
Exactly. They saw it and got to replay it. So
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. So, at your time at Manhattanville, for you personally, what do you think is the hardest team you've played against?
I think there's two. It depends in both aspects. I feel like Nazareth and Utica, both really hard to play against teams, but I feel like we're right up there with them. And it's just a matter of like we played both of them this year. We beat Nazareth, and that was the first time I believe in 2 years that they had lost in conference. So we played an unreal game. And then Utica, they're just such a hard team to play against. Their systems and just how they shoot and move the puck is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And anytime we play them, it's like one of those things where before the game, everyone's so dialed in and like you can't speak to anyone. There's no joking around. And we actually lost to Utica in playoffs last week. So that was a tough one. But, they played really well and they deserved to move on. I mean, at the end of the day, playoff hockey is do or die. And I think that, it's hard traveling like far away and then going and playing a game. Sometimes, being in an arena with them where their entire crowd is just all Utica people. And then there's a few of our parents. But I mean, they did play a really good game, and I'll give them that.
That also speaks to your conference and how hard it is when you've got Nazareth and Utica. I mean, they're two of the top teams in the country. They battle it out in the conference and they're ranked so high, and you have to play them throughout the regular season. It just kind of speaks to how hard your conference is.
Yeah, our conference, like our season this year was more of like a progressive, like uphill battle, I feel like. So once we got to like the Nazareth games and Utica games, it just kind of like inclined a bit with like, how hard we were going to have to play. And I mean, of course, we always play as hard as possible, no matter who we're going against. And I think that speaks volumes about our team, that we don't let off the gas, no matter who it is. And, just be good sports. But Utica and Nazareth, like, top two teams, and I'm excited to see who comes out on top this weekend for the championship. So
Yeah, it should be a battle. It should be a really good game. Most of the conference championship games, I think, will be pretty good, but yeah, I guess we'll have to just see what happens. So you are a dual sport athlete. I think the first dual sport athlete on the podcast. You do golf and hockey. Do you devote more time to one or the other in the off season? And then I guess to like piggyback that question, they kind of go hand in hand. Is do you have like more of a passion for one or the other?
I would say it's kind of equal. In the off season, it's kind of like one of those things. So I mean, plug to my trainer, Pete Pulowski at Pulowski Strength. He trains a lot of guys like Tage Thompson, Tice Thompson, MLB guys. So we'll train in the morning and then we'll go and play golf. So it's kind of like a happy medium in the off season of like doing both and, having fun with both. But I wouldn't say that I devote more time to one or the other. I think it's an equal focus of when I have time for golf season and when I have time for hockey season. Because when I'm in hockey season, strictly only hockey. Golf season, just, golf. And I mean, hockey is about 7-8 months long. We start as soon as we get to school, and golf season's only about like 3 months. So it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like I got to play my hockey and golf and not get too tied up in one or the other and keep my focus. But in the summer, I would say it's just like we have a lot of fun, and a lot of the gym guys will come with us. And it's good to play with people who are a lot better than you. And some of the guys are a lot better than me. Got some good pointers, but
Do you think it's hard to be a dual sport athlete? Like, people who just play hockey, they can devote all their energy to hockey. Everything they do, they only work on hockey. You've got to, like you said, you've got to find that equal balance. So do you find that harder to, make improvements in each of your sport?
I say yes and no. It's kind of like a light switch. I know when like hockey season's over, now golf is on the clock, and you kind of have to just like dial into what you're doing. And I think it's also about time management too, and making sure that I have all my priorities in order. And, of course, school and hockey and golf are like a 50-50 type of ordeal. But the moment I know that it's golf season, I need to be like, okay, like I'm going to start draining putts. And then when it's hockey season, it's like, all right, I need to start making good passes and do all that stuff. So it's just a matter of knowing like if your priorities are in order and having everything straight. So
Yeah. Right. You've just got to, like you said, when you're in each season, just focus on that season. And obviously, it's hard to, it would be hard to focus on golf in the winter anyway, you know, especially where you're located, with snow and everything. So, I mean, unless you had golf simulators, there's not a whole lot you can do, which obviously there are a lot of golf simulators now. The technology is getting better where you can work on some golf stuff. You don't need to be out on a course. So I guess it works out that, if you went to a college down south, you could obviously devote all your time to golf all year round. It wouldn't matter.
exactly.
But
Yeah. I mean, the only time I ever really play is when we're on like Christmas break or something, like winter break or spring break. Like I'll just go play for fun in Jupiter, Florida. That's where some of my family's from. So being down there is pretty awesome. And I feel like it's like instilled in my blood that I had to play from being around there.
yeah, do you like going to, just for fun, like I can't remember. Are they called Top Golfs?
Yeah.
Like just. that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they have this one called Drive Shack in West Palm Beach. It's like right by the airport, and it's basically Top Golf. It's so much fun. You just go there with a bunch of friends and just hit balls. I wish we had one around here. They tried to make some of the driving ranges like that, but it's not the same.
Not the same.
No,
Hard to, yeah.
the knockoff version.
And that's never as good. If it's not going to be, you know, you don't want just the knockoff kind of half the great value brand or
Yeah,
whatever. Like you want the legit thing.
exactly.
So you're a communications major. What exactly do you want to do with that degree? Do you want to like do something sports related with that in the future?
Most definitely. I think probably something along the lines of broadcasting for the PGA Tour or the NHL. I mean, exactly kind of what like Steve Valquette does and Mark Messier, how they're on like the intermission report, something along those lines, or like Emily Kaplan interviewing players and doing stuff like that, or just seeing where it takes me after college. I think that's probably the realm that I want to go towards and go for that.
Yeah, but you want to stick with like golf or hockey?
Yeah, probably like a realm that I know. I mean, of course, like if anything else was to ever come about, I would definitely take up the offer of that too. But I think those are two things that I'm really familiar with, and I would definitely enjoy working in the field of that and taking like my expertise and knowledge of both sports to, you know, a higher level and continue my like passion for that in a different way.
And it's easier to broadcast and talk about sports that you have experience with, opposed to something you've never played. Like, yeah, you can read up on it, you can research or whatever to prepare, but it's not the same if you don't have real life experience or knowledge.
Exactly, yeah. And I think like growing up, I really like admired Doc Emmerich and how he would do like play by play, and he started that at a young age, and just kind of his like path to how he got there, and you know his knowledge for the sport is unlike anybody else's. So kind of along the realm of that is what I want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's awesome. Um, you on your Instagram, it's you've got your Warroad brand stuff or Warroad brand. Um, so how did you get connected with them? I mean, that's TJ Oshie is kind of he's the co-founder of that, right?
Yes.
So how did you did they approach you? Did you approach them? How did you get connected with them to be one of their athletes?
Oh, story time. So back when I was like 12 years old, maybe 13, I was playing for the Yale Bulldogs, like the junior teams that they had there. And so we had this night for Mandy Schwartz, who was a women's hockey player on the team who had passed away from cancer. And her brother at the time played on the St. Louis Blues with her Jaden Schwartz, her brother, and Jordan Schwartz. I don't know. Anyways,
I think it might be Jordan.
I
I
think
can't
it's
remember
Jordan, yeah. And nobody chirped me for that. And anyways,
right now.
he was there with TJ and the whole St. Louis Blues. And so young me is seeing TJ Oshie like right before he was about to head to the Olympics when he, you know, did the shootout and everything. I was like starstruck. And then a few years later, he released Warroad, and I like immediately like started wearing the stuff. And this was when I was in like probably high school. So it was like before like NLIs and all of that. And then the brand kind of progressed, and I just like kind of would post stuff wearing it, and then they would repost it. And then one day they were like, all right, like we're going to send you stuff. And so they sent me stuff, and I've just been like doing content and stuff for them ever since. And, you know, I wear their stuff and I stand by it with like all of the recent like skate injuries and stuff that have been happening, like Evander Kane and everything. Like they've got the cut resistant wrists and like ankles on all of their Under Armour gear. And it's the Tillo. I get yelled at all the time because I say it wrong, but their stuff is honestly awesome. So I've just been working with them, and their content guy, James, has been doing an awesome job recently with everything. And, you know, it's awesome working with them. I feel like they're such a great brand and everything that they stand by. And TJ too, like he's such a role model. And, you know, being 22 in college, like I still look up to him and admire his grit and everything that he does. So
Yeah, they've got some cool technology with that, like you said, the cut resistant stuff. And it's really, I mean, you don't think about it all the time because it's not a, I guess, constant injury. But when it happens, I mean, they're obviously really serious. Like Evander Kane's injury was, I can't even imagine, you know, going through that, and just a horrible injury. So it's neat that they're starting to get this technology, you know, this clothing that can help be protective.
Most definitely, yeah. I think it's been something that's been talked about more recently, and it should have been talked about a lot more in the past before certain things like this happened. But I mean, they're just trying to get the message out there, and I think it's awesome everything that they do. And I don't even I stand by everything that they sell and produce, and I just think they're awesome people. And Meg 25 too for 25% off. So
There you go, folks. There's your little promo code. A few more things here before we wrap up. I added this. It wasn't on the little sheet that I sent you, but I've noticed that on your Instagram you had your specific game day outfits for playoffs with the little casino visors. You had one last year, you had one this year. Where did that come from? How did you think of doing that?
yeah, actually I get chirped a lot for that. But so my best friend Ava, who plays on the hockey team, her and I last year for playoffs, we were like, all right, we have to we always get walk-in pictures. We're like, this year we're gonna do something that's awesome. So we play at the Rye Playland Ice Casino. And so the whole thing we were talking about was we're gonna have a big cash out tonight, like casino cash out. And so we just were walking around Party City and we were like, you know what, we're gonna do casino theme. So we did that, and then this year we were like, you know what, we won, we got to do it again, and we won, and it just kind of has stuck, and I'm sure next year it's going to be the same exact thing. But yeah, we love the green casino visors, but some people don't really get what they are, so it kind of looks a little stupid if you don't understand. But
I feel like if you read the caption and
yeah,
you know anything about casinos, you figure it out pretty easily.
exactly. Yeah, we had these huge hundred. Actually, I have one of them right here on my desk. We had these big dollar bills,
Yeah, you had the big stack in your hand.
our phones and stuff. But it's funny. Our coach loves it, and our photographer for our team, she's always in on it, and yeah. So it's just a fun little thing to do to get everybody going.
Yeah, exactly. You want to have fun with your game day fits,
Exactly.
especially for playoffs. And now, like you said, you won, so you've got to keep it up. It's going to become a tradition, wearing the casino visors on playoff day.
It is.
So, what are your hobbies? When you're not golfing or playing hockey, what do you like to do?
Well, I like to go fishing. That's something my family loves to do. So my brother has his own boat and my dad does, and we'll just go out and we do a lot of fishing competitions and stuff like that. That might be the wrong word. But anyways, that's something that we do all the time as a family, or just my brother and I. And sometimes we'll end up catching sharks on accident. And this one time, my dad and I were in a bluefish contest, and we were going for bluefish. Ended up catching this huge dogfish, and they look like sharks, but they're not really. And so it's this picture that I'm holding this fish. It's on my Instagram. It's actually kind of sick. And it's got blood coming out of its mouth and stuff like that. And it ended up making a magazine cover. And yeah, so I love to go fishing. And also
What's the
what's that?
what's the biggest fish you've ever caught?
Oh gosh. I think 35-pound striped bass. My brother and my dad are all big on that. Me, I'm just kind of all right, I'll reel it in, maybe take a picture with it, and then call it quits. But it's just fun to do in the summer with friends. But we also go sailing a lot. Growing up, my brother and I were competitive sailors, and we used to sail these boats called lasers and 420s. And so that's been a thing that we've always done and competitively raced. So if I'm not playing golf or fishing, we'll go sailing or go on people's boats. And it's kind of fun just for people to invite you on and go out and know what you're doing.
So a lot of water-related activities.
Yeah, we grew up on the water. We were out on a boat when we were 2 months old, and my parents have probably made us water babies at this point. Can't get enough of it. No other place I'd rather be.
Yeah, there's nothing better in the summer, or even in the early fall when you've got perfect weather, than being at the lake or on the water anywhere. What's your favorite food?
Favorite food? Oh goodness. This is the one question I really didn't put a lot of thought into, because I feel I don't know. Probably pizza, but good pizza.
Okay, what kind of toppings are you putting on this pizza?
Well, it depends. So you know how Barstool Sports absolutely loves New Haven pizza. Like Stool Press loves New Haven pizza, and so that's like my favorite, probably like modern pizza, and they do like Clams Casino is pretty fire, and also just like regular cheese pizza from there. It's the best. But I could go
Thick,
anywhere with pizza.
thick or thin crust?
Thin.
Thin. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know. I think it's a toss up for thick or thin crust depending on like the restaurant. You
Yeah.
know, everybody's got a little bit different. Some places it's too crispy, or you know, some places have better thick than thin. So that's kind of a question that depends on the place more than just like in general. So, but yeah, pizza. I mean, that's a valid answer. I
It's
mean,
funny. My mom would be so disappointed in me. She's such a good cook, and I'm over here saying, "Oh, I love pizza." Like,
it's hard to narrow it down sometimes. Like you might have a whole bunch of things you like, but you can't. It's hard to like pick which one's the best. So it's easy to go with something like pizza or burgers or just something like generic, and then maybe that's not truly the best thing ever, but it's the easiest answer.
exactly. But I feel like when you get good pizza, you get good pizza, and that could be like,
Yeah, that is true. When you've got good pizza that just slaps, it really sticks with you,
yeah,
and you're just like, "Wow, I that place has awesome pizza."
exactly. Like Colony Grill, their stuff is great too. I don't know if you've ever had that, if they have that.
Mm-mm.
So Chris Jury, like, actually like owned it. He was like part owners on it, and it's like bar pizza, and it's the best stuff ever. Like sometimes it's like a personal pizza, thin crust, so good.
Yeah, the best kind of pizza, like when it's in like a big stone pizza oven,
Yeah.
and like that's the best kind of pizza. When you got a restaurant that's got one of those, oh man, some of the best pizza I've ever had is at this Fox River Brewing Company in Appleton, Wisconsin. It's in the mall there. They've got one of those like brick oven pizzas, and oh man, it's awesome. I don't know why that's my favorite pizza of like all time, but it's just kind of random.
I guess I'm gonna have to come visit Wisconsin for good pizza then.
I guess so. That'd be the luck too. Somebody's gonna hear me say this. They're gonna go there and they think it's just terrible.
I know. My mom's gonna listen to this and be really disappointed. I'm telling you, mark my words. She's gonna be like,
I,
pizza.
yeah, my luck. They'll have a new cook or like a new chef, and he just doesn't make it as good as they used to, or something, and then somebody's gonna be just absolutely pissed that they heard on Twig Snapper Podcast this was the best pizza.
How she
And
goes.
yeah, so let's end it here on what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie. Oh gosh. Probably The Wolf of Wall Street.
Really?
Yeah. Like I feel like that's such a classic. Like when I was younger, I wanted to literally work on Wall Street and like do like something like that, investment
Yeah.
banking or work for a hedge fund. And I just absolutely love that movie. Not that anything in it should be promoted and is like good, but it's just such an iconic movie. But I mean,
Yeah.
I could also circle back and go to like Happy Gilmore or like Happy.
Oh man. Yeah, that's a hilarious. I love Happy Gilmore. It's a hilarious movie. You can't go wrong with Adam Sandler.
Yeah, he's hilarious, and I just feel like the whole concept of it too is just funny. So
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing, I mean, just a hockey player that's absolutely garbage, but he can, and that's a perfect movie for you. Play hockey and golf. So that's like
exactly,
the perfect mix.
best of both worlds in that one.
The Wolf of Wall Street's too long. I've never made it through the whole movie because it's a long movie, and I don't know. I struggle with long movies sometimes. Like unless you actually like you really get into the movie, eventually I just get bored. I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah, I feel that. I've watched it far too many times.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of the movie? Funniest part, favorite part?
It's a good question. Um,
I don't know. It just cracks me up when he's with Matthew McConaughey and they're at the dinner and he starts doing the banging his chest and
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know why, but
that is actually really funny. I don't know. I think the whole thing is just funny within itself. Like it's just iconic. I feel like in a way,
yeah.
but
DiCaprio does a good job with that character. It's just like being like a crazed Wall Street businessman who's always whacked out on drugs and
exactly,
just
it's
and
great.
he does an awesome job of just playing that like drugged out lunatic who's making so much money.
But who's just so smart and can figure out like all the inside details.
Yeah, he's just raking in the dough hand over fist. Just crazy. So I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the podcast. It was a good time.
Of course. I had a great time.